Welcome to 10 Steps to an Academic Research Paper. This particular workshop and class will look at literature review, which is a specific type. I hope it'll help you be more productive and do a better job with your research papers. Well, this is a kind of overview, and you'll see some things in there about choosing a topic with the instructor's approval, and it says depending on the class whether it's U.S. coastal zone management or international coastal zone and so on. Those are just examples. I mean, some other criteria may fit. I've also given you a little list that we put together on topics that might be of interest and that are relevant. The idea here is to conduct a literature review that identifies major research that has been done on this subject and then systematically report what you found. The focus has to be on policy because this is basically a course and a training on policy, so try not to forget that. Don't wander off into all kinds of other things except where necessary. Most papers give you instructions on the specifications, type size, line spacing, how long the page should be, and so on. What you need to really do is follow those instructions. They are very important. We think you should include some library books and scientific journals. Do not use just stuff from the internet. There are wonderful things and important things that you will miss if you only go to the internet. Use government sources and non-governmental organization sources and Google for private companies and so on. Learn how to use Google Search and Google Scholar, which is one of the specific Google search engines. And I always say go interview some scientists or policymakers or individuals who can give you original quotes that nobody else has, and you'll get a much better feel for the topic. So include at least 2 books, 5 scholarly articles, and at least 5 other sources, depending on what the project is. We are also talking here about what a literature review is, because sometimes people are confused or they forget in the course of doing this research what they're doing. It's a survey of what has already been written on your topic by other people. Remember, really, you're not an expert. You, at least at this point, at least we don't think you are. You're a student, and you should synthesize and bring together stuff from other people and arrange it. It acts as a guide and a reference to further reading. And there are always alternate views on a topic, so you should include those as well, because on most topics, the experts really are not in a complete consensus. So this is really a way for you to claim credit for what you've read and to show that you understand the broad context and shape of your subject. That's the purpose of it. Most of us may be interested in your opinions, but we really want to know that you've done the work and you understand what the experts in the field have done. So keep thinking about that. Why should you write a literature review? Because undergrads and students at the master's degree usually don't have a chance to do original research. So you're normally not really gathering a lot of original data and so on, but instead you're trying to become familiar with the topic, know all of its permutations, what others have found on the subject, and be able to understand those. Later on, you'll do original research. So the reason you should write a literature or review research paper is to give you experience in systematically researching something and then reporting that. That is a very important skill. Here's a little table. By the way, you should come back and stop slides and examine them. I'm just giving you a real quick overview, all right? So play it again, come back, stop them, read what's on the screen. We can't do that in just a couple of seconds here as I go through this. So this little organizational graphic here says you have an introduction, then you have some structure to how you put together the material. You start with the earliest research that was done on the subject and go down to current, and then talk about future and if there are solutions that are being suggested, and then at the end write a nice summary conclusion. Most people forget to do that. So this here, by the way, is a literature review, but for a chronologically ordered paper. Here you see that arrow up there, that blue arrow. This is for a different type of literature review called a problem solution paper. And you can see that there are some differences in how that is done. This is a simple little step-by-step grid. We're setting it up for a kind of shorter class. It can vary, if your class is longer than this, you'll have more steps, but you begin with pre-writing and writing, collecting information and organizing and so on, and you can kind of do that by week. And when you come back to the slide, you can see what happens in each of these steps. It's really important to follow these steps. Then you continue and you go into reviewing your progress and writing a first draft, revising the text, finishing your references and other things, and polishing it off. As you can see on the right corner, on the right column here, this sort of assumes that you have 6 weeks. If you have a course happens to be longer than that, let's say, you'll obviously be able to add some time for each of these and spread that out a little bit. You can see that the next slides are going to kind of walk you through planning and writing your paper. And you can print out that grid, by the way. My suggestion is to print out that grid so that you can check off and see where you are. Pre-writing, you choose a topic. Google it, read general articles, look and see what's interesting out there. And then find and read some of the sources that you see. Definitely talk to your professor about your topic. It's very important. I mean, if you're picking something that is completely, off the mark, if it's too gigantically broad or it's so narrow that you're not going to be able to really find material, your professor will know about that. Find something that isn't excessively broad, but on which there is enough research so that you can do, really nice project on it. Our example here deals with pollution. But pollution is much too broad. So here we have a kind of a funnel on how to narrow something. So you go pollution, too broad, what kind of pollution? Where is the pollution? When? Is it pollution in the 18th century or last week or when? Why are you picking this topic? Well, because there's recent concern about human sewage in global coastal areas. And it has a lot of implications for coastal policy. And then that brings you to a kind of personal focus, which allows you to write a statement of purpose. I grade so many papers where there is no statement of purpose. People start writing about a topic, and then don't tell me kind of what this specific paper is going to be addressing on that topic. It's not enough for me to know that it's, recent concerns about human sewage. What is it you're going to do? Make sure you have a paragraph on that. A temporary outline or a beginner outline looks somewhat like what you're seeing on the screen. We've tried to be very specific, and if you just allow us to lead you through this, and if you follow these instructions, you're going to have a nicely developed paper. Please, please don't look at this and then start writing your paper and never refer back again to the kind of advice that we're trying to give you here. This is really good advice from two people, Helen Schmidt and Stefan Schmidt, who have many, many, many years of research and many awards for teaching and for research behind them. So trust me, this is pretty good advice. Come back to this slide and take a look and see you have topic sentences on different levels and different sections here. Those breakouts, they're underneath the major numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, take you in greater detail in the direction of what you're working on. We love 3x5 index cards or something along those lines. They are user-friendly. You can shuffle them around physically so you have that tactile thing. And on the front of the card, write the citation. Make sure that you get the citation exactly right, because you're going to need that in your bibliography, in your citation, in your sources. And then on the back of the card, you can write the call number, where you found this, and you can write some notes to yourself as well. And if there are graphics, make sure that you also note those. I know that you can do this other ways, but on a computer, on a laptop, and so on. If you want to try to do that, maybe that's fine. Create some Word documents that are the size of an index card and do that. But I really love index cards because you can physically rearrange your sources and build your paper physically, kind of like an architect does, before you actually start committing to it. As you get ready to develop your research paper, what we want to do is make sure you know that you have two choices. These are wonderful, and they all depend on your personality and how you prefer to work. One is traditional index cards, handwritten. You choose the size of your card, and you can take notes on them, put them in quotes, and so on. And the first slide here in the next sequence will cover that. But there is another way that a lot of people are doing this, and that is electronic and web-based note-taking tools, which you can use. And we'll talk a little bit about those as well. This is a kind of an example of a note card in which you can take notes. And let me say something to you right here. If you're going to use information from your sources and stick it in your research paper, you're going to want to put quotation marks around each quotation, and you're going to want to make sure that you cite it. There is a great concern about citations or information that is put in papers where the author forgets to give credit to the original source. Please don't do that, because in many universities now you're given kind of an admonition that research papers may be run through Turnitin or other plagiarism software, and that's that's a very important consideration that you really want to make sure that you take into account. Well, the electronic note-taking, of course, has certain clear advantages. As we say in this slide, which you can refer to, it may suit your style better. You may prefer to use your computer or a computer to take notes. And also, eventually, you're going to have to put all this material into a Word document or into some sort of electronic file, so it makes sense that you put it right from the start into an electronic document. The only thing that we would like to tell you is to be very careful, because when you transfer, copy, and paste stuff directly without writing it out with a pencil or pen, you may forget to put quotation marks around material that is original, and this is very, very dangerous. I mean, we talk about plagiarism in this presentation. Be very careful to make sure that you put things in quotation marks or italicize them so that you know that they are original sources from somebody else, and also put the exact citations in there. Okay, let's look at some of these electronic note-taking tools. So WebWorker Daily is a wonderful site. You should go to it. It has all kinds of practical information for people who work with in the digital information age in the 21st century. It's just a great site. There are constant postings of interesting material. I recommend that you look at it, even if you're not interested in electronic note-taking. But the site that we've linked you to, which is Applications for Online Note-Taking, has some great applications like Google Notebook, which I use, and it's available free of charge if you have a Gmail, a Google account, and MyNote and Notefish and others. These have the advantage that you can do research anywhere. You can be at a friend's house or in a library or internet cafe that has internet access. You don't have to have your own computer. Your research doesn't reside on your computer, but it stays on the website, and you can access it any time, and then you can share it, you can edit it, you can download it for your project, send it on to friends or colleagues if you want to share any information with them. So it's pretty neat stuff. Another great source of information about tools is the British Centre for Learning and Performance Technologies. We've linked you to a site called Tools and then Notes. And this source has another list of many other free tools. You can take a look at those, and it also has a nice summary of some commercial tools like Microsoft OneNote. If you're not familiar with that, it's a pretty sophisticated application. You have to buy it. It's definitely interesting. They've got many others on there, AM Notebook and Wiz Folder Organizer and others that are very, very nice for doing research. And also, after you're done with your research for us here, these are very helpful tools for preparing briefings, for preparing position papers, project reports, analyses, whatever you're doing in other courses or in your job, your professional life. So they're really productivity tools. If you're a Mac user, personally, I am twin platforms. I have a Mac. I have actually 4 Macs, and I love them very much. And I also have PCs, and so I go back and forth between platforms. If you really love Macs, Scrivener is a wonderful application that you can use for doing the same kind of thing with Macs. You can outline and edit and take notes, and I as I mentioned in the slide, they have a thing called Corkboard, which is kind of a virtual bulletin board where you can stick your little notes and then you can move them around and reorganize them and stuff. I'm a very visual person myself, and I love that feature. I like note cards because they're visual and you can move them around and reorganize them, and Scrivener does the same thing for you in digital fashion. So I hope you will, if you're using analog note cards, I hope that you'll at least experiment with the digital ones, digital applications, because I think you'll eventually shift to those and find them extremely useful and producing high productivity on your part. Okay, let's move on. Here is in step 5 an example outline of this problem solution paper. It has the title. It goes through the introduction to the topic, and it gives you much more detailed information. It talks about connecting information, and it guides you really by taking your hand. It guides you step by step here through what you should be doing. First body paragraph, what should that be? Again, try to use this as a template as you write the paper. Fill in some of the suggested information. Second body paragraph, same thing. I'm not going to dwell on these. You will come back and essentially read these things carefully, and you'll maybe take some notes so that you can follow these steps as you do the paper. Third body paragraph, you saw that earlier in the outline that we want these really highly structured content paragraphs. Fourth body paragraph. Fifth body paragraph. Is this getting monotonous? I'm sorry about that. We wanted to make sure that we actually physically had in here each of these steps. You've completed your review. You've gotten a lot of good quotes and other information. Now you can reach your conclusion. Make sure that your conclusion summarizes the main ideas of the paper. And in the conclusion, it's really also very appropriate and usually interesting to include suggestions for future research. That shows a little bit of your skill in analyzing the total topic and sort of saying what other things need to be done, either from your perspective or even what other people say needs to be done in the future. This is a review of progress sheet. After you complete all the steps that we've just gone through, you ought to print this off, and you should really go through and do a kind of detailed progress report. This is what it looks like. I asked students to give me a progress report, and I swear I got an email from one of the students, and it said, "Dear Professor Schmidt, I'm making a lot of progress on this topic. Thank you." That's not a progress report. That's essentially a statement of faith, and it's absolutely not adequate. So do this very carefully. Research paper update number 2, you may be asked to essentially answer these questions, or if you're not asked, to answer them for yourself. Now, in our course on how to write papers and how to do presentations, we really require students to actually submit this so that you as a student have the personal self-reflection, you know what I mean, on all of these things. And you may find that you haven't done some of this. How do you write the first draft? Well, you take your note cards and you start organizing them in the order of the working outline that you created. You can put your bibliography cards in alphabetical order at the end of the note cards so that you can enter those because we would like you to use a citation method where you put essentially your citations in alphabetical order by author at the end, and you can start to write. Please look for graphics. That fourth bullet is so important. There are many things on any subject, in particular, for example, the subject of sewage and sewage contamination, where you can either make a graphic in a table or a spreadsheet, or you can find some graphics, and if you're taking them from the website or somewhere else, please cite where they came from. But something that summarizes visually, okay? Please do that. Never forget to cite direct quotations in quotation marks. It can be deadly. Students are dismissed from programs every year because inadvertently or on purpose they basically were taking other people's material. Right now, as you prepare your manuscript and your paper, number every page. Make sure that when you turn a paper in, every page is numbered. Why? Because that's the universal standard for knowing A, how long something is, B, whether some pages are missing, and what the order is in which the material comes. And if somebody wants to refer to something interesting that you have to say, they're going to say, you know, on page 20 you said such and such. Please don't ever turn in a paper that doesn't have page numbers. Then you submit your first draft if the instructor asks for it. And in our case, we ask for a first draft. You get feedback from your instructor on that first draft, and you really must read that feedback. I mean, your instructor is there to help you be successful and do things well. Please read that. We're going to have some examples of papers. You can either go to them later, or you can click on the pages where those are, and you can see, here in this case, we'll have a draft with some feedback written on it. It's essential that you write your in-text and bibliographic references using the American Psychological Association APA form. We've provided that for you so that you can look it over and make sure that you revise the references, make sure that you do internet citations properly. And then go back and follow your instructor's feedback to revise the organized paper, spelling, punctuation, and so on. Please at least run a spell checker in Microsoft Word or something over the paper. I had a student submit a paper with tons of small mistakes, and all I did was run spell checker over it and put it so that it would mark the corrections. And it was very embarrassing because essentially the student hadn't bothered to even do that, and by all means do that. I got a paper the other day. I had no idea who it was from, what class it was for, nothing, because it was attached to an email and it started right into the first paragraph. You have to have a cover page, and it has to have certain information on it. That's what we do as professionals. Remember, the reason why we're teaching this class and why we're giving you these 10 steps is so that you will be a more successful professional, a more successful scientist. It'll make you feel better, and it'll also contribute to your professional excellence in the future. I hope you enjoyed this, and just remember, play it over again and check things out in detail. Thanks a lot.